Gallant IAS. My name is Sibi Joy, and as part of Gallant IAS mains program, we are having a mains test series. So presently the prelims exams are done and people are worrying about what next, what should we do? Like we have very less time, 75 days for prelims, 3 months for prelims. So all these confusions, all this is running through the mind. So what can we do to make sure that your prelims preparation is effective? So while preparing for mains, there are certain things you should be looking at in a different perspective compared to how you are looking at when you looked at with regards to prelims. So in mains, there is an important aspect known as answer writing. When you compare it with other things, if for example in prelims we just say test, we just give tests, but whereas in mains you need to write your answers. So there is an angle of answer writing practice. Along with that, there is tests, and along with that you need to develop your content, because the content for mains, while pretty similar to prelims, is a bit different than what you're learning for your prelims in general. So taking all this into account, there is a plan here in Gallant to provide a test series for 20 questions or 20 tests of varying natures. So that'll be 8 tests which are sectional in its idea. That'll be nearly 8 tests based on various sections like history, geography, polity, economy, and also the other subjects like international relations and internal security. Following that, there'll be a full test including compulsory papers. There'll be 7 papers, and at the end there will be just the 5 papers, GS 1, 2, 3, 4 and essay in the final slot. So this is going to go like this. This is the idea behind it. So when you are preparing for a test series in general, instead of just, I'm not talking only about the test series offered over here, but also when you're preparing for test series in general, and when you're especially preparing for mains, I insist that you do take a test series and get your answers evaluated and the feedback received properly. Why? Because this feedback and your answer writing practice will determine the speed and the pace at which you can write your answers or your papers consistently over time. So it requires a three-pronged approach where you look at not only the content but also your structural writing and also the speed. So the speed is usually an element left for the last, and that is something it is accepted. But content and the structural writing has to go simultaneously side by side. Once when you do that together in line with what you are preparing, it should definitely help you. So then the next question arises, sir, how do we prepare? So for those who are over the marks of 80 or 85, I would say please do start preparing. Now there's a reason I'm saying generally 80, because there's a possibility, but generally if it's above 80, 85, please do start preparing in earnest for your mains exam. When you start preparing in earnest for your mains exam, what can you do right now? Like, so today what can I do? Today what you can do is get your syllabus, look at the syllabus topics and see whether you have the associated books or materials or content to learn and study from. If you take GS1, you need history, geography, Indian society, GS2 as polity, international relations, governance, GS3 as economy, agriculture, land reforms, science, science and technology, environment, internal security, and ethics has its own separate in case studies and the theory part. So all of that require different content, different material. So some of you may have it, some of you may not have it, some may have it partially, does not matter. First things first, get the syllabus, get a hard copy of the syllabus, get all the books, get all the materials in line. So once you get all that, make sure that it is right, it is true, it is the right material that you have. It does not matter how many number of books you have, just make sure it is right. How do you do it? Please contact the mentors, contact your teachers, ask your fellow peers, or you can always contact us. We'll be happy to guide you through the basic material for the mains exam. Once you have that in hand, start reading from them. So an easy way while preparing for mains exam is, so some people will be there in the border and they'll be like worrying, like what should we be writing about? Like, sir, should we begin off with answer writing practice of history, or should we begin off with answer writing practice of optionals, or should we begin off in a completely different manner by writing essays and ethics? Doesn't matter. Start writing. So like I said, you need to do everything simultaneously. You need to start writing, you need to start gathering content, you need to improve the speed, and you can't do this in a step-by-step basis, but rather this has to go in a parallel, or in a along parallel lines. Once it goes like that, it is only then we can achieve success in this. So you can begin off, ideally I would say you can begin off with an optional, or the GS1 paper, because the optional paper is definitely something you should always be giving prime importance to as part of your mains. And your GS papers, especially GS paper 1, has the static part of history and geography, which is something you're familiar with because you just finished your preliminary exam. So without any much delay, you can just actually start preparing for the GS1 paper. So in the initial phase, I would say begin off with optional and the GS1 paper. Optional, please do start writing the answers. Please do start giving tests for your optional papers, while at the same time start preparing for the GS papers. So when the test series begin, usually they'll be beginning off with sectional test, and most probably the first paper is going to be history or geography. So if you are prepared on paper 1, GS1, you have some idea of history and geography. Obviously, it's going to reflect in the model test or the mock test that you're going to give for your mains exam. So in this way, strategize your preparation. Begin off with subjects which are very familiar to you, especially with regards to prelims. History and geography is a very good subject you can begin off your your mains preparation in. Following that, simultaneously start off your optional. You have 2 days, by 2 weeks, by the end of this month, definitely the prelims result will be out, and focusing upon that, you can, if the result is positive, I hope it's all positive for each and every one of you. If it's positive, you can definitely jump into the preparation, you can extend it, you can boost your preparation. But in case you didn't make it for the next year, for this year, it's okay. Next year you're supposed to write mains anyway. So start preparing. You need your answer writing practice, you need your test series practice, you need to know how much you can write, how much answers you can write in 3 hours. Taking all this into account, I would say it is an ideal solution that you start preparing right now. So taking all this into account, I can say that it is of imperative importance that you begin off as soon as possible. So when you're beginning off, we gave you an approach where you begin off with certain subjects because of the reasons which is more familiar to the aspirant from the perspective of prelims, while at the same time optional is something again an aspirant would have begun, or they should definitely be looking into. So begin off in this angle, while at the same time you need to have a parallel approach towards content development, structural writing and speed. In this case, again, join test series, start writing answers, start getting answers evaluated and the feedback received properly from subject experts, because that feedback matters a lot, especially when you write your mains. And one pro tip I can give you when it comes to mains is primarily content. While content does play a key role in your mains answer writing, content is maybe 30 or 40% at the maximum when writing your mains answer. Most of the time you have a paucity of time when you're writing your mains answers. So in that case, I would say once the content is done properly, start writing more and more answers to improve your speed and to improve your structure. How do you know that your content is right or wrong? Try to keep the number of sources from which you read to a minimum, and try to stick to standard books as much as possible, because if you stick to if you have too many books, you will be running behind content always, and you won't be focusing on the static part. So always stick to the standard books, stick to the static parts, make sure that your content, whatever you have, is limited in number but really rock solid, and from that you can start developing answers, you can start adding more and more examples, and therefore you can make the answer really good and really effective. So that is the way you should be approaching this exam. I hope you all understood with regards to how you can approach your mains exam. Similarly for optionals too, while I did say you have to begin off as soon as possible with regards to optional writing and optional studies, it is again important that you have to join a test series for optional. So again, go to your concerned faculty or subject, go find the optional test series, start writing that as many answers for optional subjects as much as possible, because the optional subjects, the marks in the optional subjects are the foundation upon which you are going to build your UPSC rank list. Your name is going to come on the UPSC rank list. Optional will make or break your name into the rank list or not. So again, give due importance to optional. At the same time, you need some writing practice, you need to begin off with some subjects. So the easier subjects are history and geography, because we are familiar with it, we can begin off in that angle. And another thing apart from that is, while certain subjects may have large number of content, there is a possibility that while the content is large, the questions asked from those subjects are very small. An example can be something like world history, where the subjects or where the questions being asked in world history are very negligible number, maybe 1 or 2 at most, and over the past few years it's always stuck to 1 or even 0. So in that case, instead of focusing on world history or spending so much time on world history, what we can do is we can take a previous year questions, we can do an analysis and find those high yielding areas and focus upon those areas where the possibility of questions is more frequent, and based upon those possibilities and frequencies, you can start preparing content for those areas which you are sure that there will be a question from. An example would be urbanization or globalization of women in GS1, or maybe with regards to GS2, something with regards to governance. There's always a question on governance. So some focus on that angle, and bringing this focus on these high yielding areas will definitely bring a large change in the marks that you're going to score. Similarly, instead of just looking at the content or that answer, try to bring in dynamism to your answers, try to incorporate current affairs into it, and definitely that is going to bring about a change. So in short, what I would like to say, encompassing the entire content that I've said right now, is you need to start a parallel approach of both content and structural writing and also speed. Along with that, this is applicable for both your optional and your GS. You can begin off by reading about history and geography, and then simultaneously you can also start off your optional studies. Join an answer writing program, definitely join a test series, because overall that is what is going to push you from the mains category into those who go for interview and finally into the rank list. So that is all from my side. I wish each and every prelims aspirant my very best and all the best for the mains exam. Thank you.